Welcome back to Open Line. If you are just joining us here on the half hour, first of all, thank you. We are talking about reforming not medical marijuana laws, but reforming marijuana laws, I should say. And I have Beverly Moran and Paul Kuhn here as advocates with a group called NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Law. And we've got lots of callers on the line. I want to get to as many as we can this hour. So let's first go to Ann. Ann, I know you've been waiting patiently. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Just to start with, I am a responsible 63-year-old adult and have been afflicted with some kind of pain ailment since I was a teenager.
I'm sorry.
Being prescribed medicines that I could be addicted to but am not. And in the last 5 years have used CBD products that I can purchase here in Tennessee, but have been given products purchased in states where it has been legal to get them in the way of ointments that, if it were available here in Tennessee, would gladly use over opioids any day of the week for arthritis, bone spurs, lupus, you name it, serious illnesses that I have dealt with for 20 or 30 years. Tennessee needs to reform their laws. What can I do as a 63-year-old woman who does not drink alcohol and kill people behind the wheel of my car, who doesn't do methamphetamines and opioids and ravage my neighbor's home, but what can I do to get my legislators to listen, to say there are children and adults who do responsibly need these laws reformed?
Ann, great question. What does someone like Ann do?
Well, I wanted to say one thing, that when she was talking about bone spurs, Paul has this canister.
He brought a little show and tell for us.
And it was for someone with bone spurs. I mean, the federal government recognized that this person was suffering so deeply from bone spurs that that they were eligible for the government marijuana. I mean, one thing that I would urge her to do, and I would urge everyone to do, is just sign up at NORML. It doesn't cost anything, and you get emails whenever there's significant legislation, either on the state level or on the federal level. And the emails are set up so that you can very easily send your own email to your legislators, and they're set up so that it's exactly the right legislators, and we educate you on the issue and help you connect, because at some point we have to put our elected officials in a position where they realize that there's a pushback. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why Paul and I are here, because so many people are afraid. We've made people so afraid that if they say that they're involved in this at all, that it means that they're a criminal, that they're immoral, that they're not somebody that you would want to ever talk to or think about. And it's a lot of very, very normal, upstanding people. So we need to let other people know that that's the case.
And I want to let you know, at the end of the hour here, we will give out the website for NORML and some contact information. So get your pen and paper ready. We will have that for you so you can write it down. If you could explain what you have here.
Yes, as Beverly was mentioning, as the caller with bone spurs, the government started probably 45 years ago a compassionate investigational new drug program, and patients, if they're willing to fill out the paperwork, which was literally a couple feet high, they could qualify for that program and receive marijuana from the government. And it worked, and so they shut it down fairly quickly, but there were 10 or 14 patients who got under the wire there and received, the surviving ones, I think they're 4, which is a remarkably long time.
Sure.
They're pretty healthy people because they've got an underlying condition. But they each received from the government at 10, once a month. It is filled with 300 marijuana cigarettes, and it says smoke 10 daily as
sure
directed.
does. Yeah, it does.
So the government on the one hand says, oh, it doesn't have medical use. On the other hand, they're still supplying marijuana
They
to
still
these.
do.
Yeah, yeah. Now they haven't let any new patients in for
Sure.
40 years or so, but the lucky survivors are still getting their marijuana free from the U.S. government.
That's so interesting. Never heard about that. All right, we're going to get back to the lines. I'm trying to see where I left off. Henry, I think, is up next. Henry, thank you for being with us.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
I think that guy that's 53 years old, been smoking pot for 53 years, tell him Boy Squad's got his phone number. And this is Bob Lobertini on Channel 5's Dining for Dollars. We're trying to give away a $25 bag of marijuana. You can pick up your prize at our James Robinson Studios.
All right. Okay, Henry, I think you pranked us, but thank you, I guess. Thanks for calling in and waiting so long. We're going to go to Linda here. Hi, Linda.
Hi. I would like to comment on both medical and recreational marijuana.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, for the medical, I think Tennessee needs it really bad. I've never heard of anyone dying from marijuana. And but of course I don't think it'll happen because you have all these drug companies that are paying off some of the politicians. Marsha Blackburn was a perfect example of that one. So they won't pass medical marijuana. And also the recreational, it's not as bad as alcohol. I mean, it is not. I don't think people should be able to grow their own and sell it or anything. But if it's controlled and they sell the clean, real marijuana instead of mixing it with something, I think people would be a lot better off. And the state would have a lot more tax dollars.
Yeah. Thank you, Linda, for calling in. I appreciate it. Linda is the first to mention the pharmaceutical industry. Do you see a lot of pushback from the pharmaceutical industry when it comes to lobbying?
Well, we have seen in states where medical's been on the ballot or recreational, you know, whoever contributes, that's public information. And among the contributors are pharmaceutical companies. And we do know that when individuals have access to medical cannabis, they cut way back on prescribed pharmaceuticals because most of those have. You watch these ads. I watch Sunday morning TV, and the ads are clearly aimed at people of my age
Yes,
because
they
they're
are.
all pharmaceutical, many pharmaceutical ads, and they go through that list of side effects, which are debilitating, and therefore you have to take another drug to offset the effects of the first drug, and then that has effects, and you end up with this cocktail of 12 drugs you're taking every day, and in many cases you can throw that cocktail away and just have marijuana or one or two other drugs. So the pharmaceutical industry is not supportive of doing this.
Let's get back to the phone lines. Keith is on the line. Keith, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, basically, this is just personal opinion, but the first time I smoked marijuana, I was in my mid-30s. And my experience with it, it's much safer than alcohol. I think there are a lot of advantages to legalizing it. One, like they said, it would be income for the state through taxes. Everywhere you go, you always hear that the jails are overcrowded, so they wouldn't, have to lock people up for it. I think a lot of places now are just giving them a ticket so that they're not actually going to jail so much anymore. But it's overall, it's way safer than alcohol, and I think that most people that are against it have never tried it and are really speaking out of non-experience with it.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Thank you, Keith. I do want to talk about the criminal justice side of this, and you've touched a little bit on it, Beverly. But for folks who don't know, what is normal? If you were caught with marijuana, whether it be a little bit or a lot, what typically happens, let's say here in Nashville?
The problem is that it can be so different. So, for example, one of our board members is defending a woman in Indiana, 72 years old. She was caught with 2 marijuana cigarettes, and she might actually go to prison. I mean, it seems insane. He was saying that he'd never seen anything like it, that generally you go to the district attorney and you say, she's a 72-year-old woman, and that sort of ends it, but not always. We had a local meeting where there was a woman who appeared to be about in her 60s, and she had spent time in prison because of growing for herself and her husband, who was very ill. So there are lots of, I live on the Vanderbilt campus, and so I know there are lots of instances where, you know, young people are doing things and it's as though it's not illegal. But there are also lots of instances where people really find their lives ruined. And even when it's not a criminal arrest, people can find that they're blackmailed by their ex-spouses over child support because they use marijuana, or they're blackmailed by people because of their jobs. It's just not a healthy situation.
We have to take another quick break. When we come back, we will squeeze in some more phone calls. Stay with us.